And there's some immediate differences from that clip and the first clip we heard. But before we give our analysis on it, let's hear the immediate follow-up question from the intrepid reporters. I think this is Clarence Hill.
With all due respect, this is different than what you said this morning on the radio. Did something change in between? Because this morning you said that you anticipate everybody coming back, including Scott.
Yeah, again, we haven't had any substantive conversation. Scott did an excellent job for us this year. And again, I don't know how I answered that question this morning. Nothing has changed. Again, I was in and around player meetings. Feel very good about what Scott Linehan did for us. Very good about what Rod Marinelli and Chris Richard have done, and Keith O'Quinn and everybody on our staff. We'll have conversations about everybody as we go here the next few days. And we'll make a lot of decisions to put the staffs together and put our team together as we go.
See you later.
Man, he was pulled into the office, right, and told what to think. You know, to me, so much of Jason Garrett, it feels like he cares more about being a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys than he does about putting his foot down and winning a Super Bowl the way he wants to win a Super Bowl. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It's like, hey, listen, I'm going to manage up. We've heard the way he manages up.
I'm with you.
Jerry talks about how, Jason can explain anything he needs to after a loss. He can tell exactly what he was thinking, 10 different ways, what he was thinking.
I don't know how I answered that question.
But it's like you've been stripped of all power here. You know, if you think about it, you know, what is that game that Garrett plays with Dak?
Mattel football.
Where they throw, after practice
Hungry
at camp,
Hippo.
they throw the ball to each other?
Yeah, catch.
Right, it's a game of catch.
Right.
And if you hit somebody in the face or in the chest, they get a different amount of points. If it's not in the face or chest, you don't get those points. I think that's because he wants to talk to his quarterback. He is powerless. Linehan has him surrounded.
Chance to connect.
Linehan hired his whipping boy, Kellen Moore, to come in and be the quarterback's coach. Is Kellen Moore going to go to Dak and go, man, you can't throw that interception. You got to hold the ball there, or you got to get rid of the ball here? No. He's a contemporary, if he even is that. Mm-hmm. He's not going to go there. And so Linehan has Dak surrounded. Garrett can't even get to him. Garrett doesn't have power over the offense. He doesn't have power over the defense. He's powerless in this situation. He can't even comment on his staff. What is he in charge of?
Okay. I don't know that I've ever heard a worse answer than I'm not sure what I said earlier. Like,
that guy just says he doesn't care.
Hey, that guy is the smartest person in that building. You think he doesn't know what he says? You're exactly right, Skin.
But I guess
he doesn't care what he said.
What I'm saying
he doesn't care what he said on the radio.
But in a lot of ways, what he just said with that answer is nothing that I say matters. That's basically what he's saying.
Exactly.
He's basically saying it doesn't matter what I said earlier. I just said words because I was contractually obligated. Just like right now, words are coming out of my mouth.
He'll get a vote. He'll get a vote.
He is
when
there.
they're having those meetings today, he'll get a vote.
He is there because it's easier for the Joneses to work with him than it is to work with a guy like Bill Parcells. There's an air of comfortability.
Right.
They know him. They like him. He's smart. He's a good guy. Everybody loves Garrett.
Dude, this team was 3-5 and they got to the divisional round of the playoffs. That doesn't happen by accident.
They buy in. The players buy in. They like their coach. But it's as a person, he's got to tiptoe around even being involved with the offense. He doesn't even hold a play sheet. There's not a time in a game where Garrett goes, Parcells wasn't in charge of the offense, but Sean Payton, he'd say, Sean, run it behind this lineman on this play. Yeah. Go for one on this one. He wouldn't call the specific play. He'd tell him what to do. Every once in a while, here's what I want you to do here. And Sean Payton did it.
I've heard stories of him overriding Sean on calls because he didn't like the call because it was going to impact the game because he's the head coach.
He's the head coach.
Right.
Garrett can't do that. Garrett is in charge of motivational speaking. Garrett is in charge of making sure that guys are on time, that they're following the process, and he's done a good job of that. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have any power. He can't even give you his opinion on the radio because he has to be told what his opinion is.
I can't agree with that more.
I do want to be fair, though, because I just saw at the NFL Network, and Jane was doing a report, and the big headline says, Jason Garrett says Scott Linehan will return.
Right.
Well, what Jason said is that he anticipates no coaching staff changes.
It's a huge
hold on.
He anticipates. He didn't say Scott's coming back.
I know, but I do think that's a little bit different than what you're saying, KT, because the question was, do you anticipate a change with Scott Linehan? And he said, I don't anticipate that. That's different. That's a little bit different than...
Maybe he doesn't.
Man, come on.
Maybe he doesn't.
He looks like a fool if they make a change after they put him out there like that for him to say that. He should have found out what's going on. He's not in control of it, so he doesn't know what's going on.
Well,
Scott was gone on Halloween.
I don't know.
dude.
I think he knows he's gone. I think he just answered it in a terrible way because he just doesn't care about what he's saying because it doesn't mean
I don't think he
anything.
gives a damn what he says on these airwaves.
I
I
don't
really
think
don't.
Skin's ice cream
I think
shop.
he cares very much what he says, and I think he's highly intelligent, and I think he cares that he doesn't say anything at all. So he's trying as hard as he can not to betray the trust of the inside of the organization, but he doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to look like a fool. And he's set up to look like a fool by the way he answered that question if they bounce Linehan because it shows he wasn't even involved in it.
No. I know what you're saying, Ben, but I guess what I'm saying is he knows what's happened with Scott Linehan over the course of this year. He has to know.
He has to know.
And so the way he answers that question, he answered it in a way in which it was like, I'm not putting any thought into this. I'm just coming here giving you lip service. And then it blew up in his face because of what Steven said. And then he did not expect the second press conference question to be, hey, you just said the opposite of what you said 4 hours ago.
Yeah, I didn't take it that way. I took it as he could have easily said, hey, listen, we're evaluating things. We haven't made any decisions. We got to have meetings. It's a group process. He went out and said, yeah, I don't anticipate a problem with Linehan, but he did a great job this year. That's basically what he said to me. Can we hear his answer for Sean and RJ again this morning when they asked if Linehan was coming back?
I do. We don't anticipate any significant changes on our staff. Obviously, we're still evaluating everything.
All right, there it
on
is.
Our football.
We don't anticipate any significant changes on our staff. I mean, that's strong. He didn't have to be that strong. He could have said, hey, man, we're going to evaluate things. It's a process. He does that all the time.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree. But don't you think when he said, I don't even know what I said this morning? Wait, play that last response again because I don't want to put words in his mouth. I definitely don't want to put words in his mouth.
The one from Sean and RJ this morning?
From Clarence Hill. When Clarence Hill follows up with, hey, that's a way different response than what you said earlier.
With all due respect, this is different than what you said this morning on the radio. Did something change in between? Because this morning you said that you anticipate everybody coming back, including Scott.
Yeah, again, we haven't had any substantive conversation. Scott did an excellent job for us this year. And again, I don't know how I answered that question this morning. Nothing has changed. Again, I was in and around player meetings. Feel very good about what Scott Linehan did for us. Very good about what Rod Marinelli and Chris Richard have done, and Keith O'Quinn and everybody on our staff. And we'll have conversations about everybody as we go here the next few days. And we'll make a lot of decisions to put the staffs together and put our team together as we go.
Don't you guys all agree universally it's just a horrible day for Garrett?
I think the Joneses were like, did you say Linehan was coming back on your radio show? And he's like, is he not? Are we out on Linehan? What are we doing here, guys? Yeah, we'll let you know if he's coming back or not. I don't think it's looking good for him. You need to change that answer. You know what I mean? It just has that air that he was.
I don't disagree, Ben, that's what it sounds like. In fact, I agree 100%. I just can't fathom it. I can't fathom with what happened over the last 8 weeks and even some of the reports 3 weeks ago that they were telling Linehan what plays to call. I can't fathom that he was thinking it was business as usual.
Right.
But maybe.
Right.
Maybe
No,
it is that
I hear ya.
dysfunctional. It is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Absurd. According to some research done by The Ringer and talking to players after the game, one Ram offensive lineman said they knew what the Cowboys' scheme was defensively 90% of the time, based on where the gap alignment was.
Yeah.
In fact, earlier today, Stephen Jones, if I can jump to some of these Stephen Jones clips, this is number 5. I think this is what he's kind of referencing here is the G-Bag Nation asked Stephen Jones about how the defense performed. So think about the comment of the Rams players talking about where specifically Malik Collins, for example, is lining up in the gaps and knowing when the twist or the stunt is coming, and then listen to what Stephen said.
Well, you got to start with giving the Rams credit. They had a good game plan. They knew what they wanted to do in terms of tightening their gaps down and trying to cut off some of our run fits, and made it difficult for our backers and our defensive personnel to get into the right gaps, and created some holes for their running game, and we were never able to get adjusted to that. And they obviously, had a big day running the football, and that's not typical for us. We've typically been able to get teams out of their run game and into the pass game, and, we just weren't able to do that in this game.
The Cowboys, just to me, they're just a team that they've painted themselves into this corner where a game has to go a certain way for it to work out for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Cowboys are so conservative offensively. They sit back there in the huddle and they're like, oh, my God, hopefully we get 3 yards on this run, and it really sets up a better second down situation for us. Where there's teams out there going, man, hope we bust this for a touchdown. It's like They're so incredibly conservative, and it has to follow this simple formula that they've just painted themselves into this conservative corner that, man, it's just hard to watch when the game doesn't go the way they need it to go.
Incompletions or 1-yard runs hinder the Cowboys in way more tough situations than they do other teams.
Yeah.
For that reason. And now, other good teams.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, if the Rams run for 1 yard on first down, there's a chance they may pick up 11 yards on the next pass. But to your point, if, hey, we're going to do this and it sets up this and then this, when that doesn't work, what's your counterpunch? They don't really have any counterpunches. Right. There has been times where Dak has been able to pull out tough plays. Great example, against Seattle, picking up 3rd and 14 on a run. There's times where he can pull stuff out of his butt, but it's just not with the same frequency that other teams are able to make those kinds of plays.
Here's why my opinion of Dak has evolved over the course of the year. And I feel like it must be exhausting to be the quarterback of the Cowboys in this scheme. Nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy. And it's run. Okay, Dak, save us. Can you it's 3rd and 14? Mm-hmm. Can you work? That's unfair. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he is, you could sit here and debate the nuances of where he is. Is he ranked number 5 through 10? Is he 10 through 15 or whatever? Where is he ranked as a quarterback? The bottom line is he's good enough to win with. I feel like the Cowboys scheme holds them back more than anything. I don't see the scheme doing Dak Prescott any favors. It never looks easy for the Cowboys. When the Cowboys are able to make things happen, most of the time, there's been a couple plays within any scoring drive where Zeke has made some miracle play. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, that should be a 1-yard gain. He turned it into 7.
Yeah.
Or that should be a 2-yard loss. He turned it into 5. Okay, here's a manageable down and distance. I just think they're so freaking conservative, and it's a complicated thing because this is Jason Garrett's team. Jason Garrett got this job on the merits of being an offensive coordinator. They had to strip him of play calling because he was too freaking conservative. So now he's not in charge of play calling, but they've got somebody else running a hybrid of his scheme, right? Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly conservative. It's incredibly predictable. You're just not helping your players with your scheme. And I think the reason they won't get rid of Linehan, I would love to see them get rid of Linehan.
They will.
The reason they won't get rid of Garrett is because it's so easy for the Cowboys to work with him, and they don't ever want to go back to that Bill Parcells stuff where Jerry Jones is getting boxed out from doing whatever the hell he wants with his own team.
Well, we didn't have time to get into this with the mix. We almost got into it. It's basically what Aikman was saying a month ago, right? Like nothing changes. And that's his boy. Jason Garrett's his boy.
Yes.
Jerry and Steven, Troy's cool with them. He likes them. But he's basically saying, hey, this is what it is. This is what it's always going to be. I don't expect the Cowboys to be able to get a coach that's as good as Belichick. But let me give you an example. So what were we talking about on Friday? This is the worst New England team ever, or in the last 10 years, right?
Yeah. Roster-wise.
They just out-schemed and out-executed and outsmarted the Chargers in every conceivable way possible. And what were we talking about earlier, KT, is like, oh, my God, they're suddenly, it's very unpatriot-like, but now they're doing all these 2 running back sets, and they're operating out of this because they use everything at their disposal as opposed to putting everything together in one little funnel and going, we're going to do this over and over and over. And as the league constantly adapts, one thing that happens is Bill Belichick is never a dinosaur because he evolves with the league. And so you have a quarterback that can execute, and you have a guy that's never going to get out schemed. He's never going to get out. They may get out talented sometimes, and they may get beat, but there's a reason they're there every single year for 2 decades, and it's not doing the same thing over and over. It is using trends to their advantage, going against the trends, tricking people, out scheming people, and being in the mix every single year.
Yeah, and I think Garrett was on the ropes at 3-5.
I don't doubt that.
I think Garrett was on the ropes, and I think this thing could, if it had gone south, continued to go south, I think they would have rolled out Garrett, rolled out Linehan, rolled out Kellen Moore, and brought in a whole new offensive scheme. This scheme in general, I don't think they're going to get away from it, right?
They're not.
It's because it is indicative of Jason Garrett's conservative DNA. Mm-hmm. That's who Jason Garrett is, and so even if you bring in somebody else to bring in, another offense, it's going to be somebody else running this scheme.
Absolutely. And I do think that this scheme can be fine I think it's one of those things where you have to have a good rhythm as a play caller. You have to try to understand what the other team is doing and then make calls within your scheme that'll work against those things. I mean, I would prefer them. I mean, dude, we've talked about this. The Rams give you the same formation over and over and over, but the things that they call out of that formation work.
Variations of it.
Yeah. And so to my point, I would prefer them to be more expansive, but it's really more about what they call out of that scheme that puts you in a position to win, as opposed to we're going to keep doing these things and out execute. I mean, dude, it is absurd that the entire Metroplex knew what was about to happen on 4th and 1.
Dude.
And there is no way the Cowboys had any shot whatsoever of making that work. And we all watched it unfold. It was like watching a car crash.
I want you to think about this. Rico Gathers played in 1/4 of the offensive snaps.
Stuff.
Their third tight end was in for a fourth of their plays. He played 24% of the snaps. I don't understand what they're doing. It's like they don't care. Oh, we lost Jason Witten. We don't really have a tight end. That's fine. We lost Swaim. Oh, we're good. Let's still keep running triple tight ends.
Do you want to get in on this, bro?
It's unbelievable how predictable and conservative their play calling is, how their scheme is outdated. And if you just brought in somebody, an innovator, to bring in some new wrinkles to help Dak, man, I think you could set up the run with the pass. I think you could. I mean, look at the way play action works for the Rams. It leaves you screwed because you are so concerned about one of their two running backs or maybe a handoff on a jet sweep. There's people running horizontally all over the place. You got a million different things to think about. Oh, my God, they're passing? What? We were just trying to stop 3 different running plays. The Cowboys are so simple and predictable. There's none of that. And by the time they are ready to pass the ball, Dak's screwed. It's 3rd and long.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And it's like the same. Why doesn't this team, over the course of the season, they should have schemed game plans around Cole Beasley, Amari Cooper. Why can't Amari Cooper get Michael Thomas-like targets? Mm-hmm. Michael Thomas of the Saints, what do you end up having? 12 catches in that game? He is a weapon. Get him the freaking ball. Get him the ball until they stop him. Cole Beasley cannot be guarded one-on-one. Get him the rock. And I'm not necessarily talking about this game. Cole shouldn't even have been out there. He was banged up. But I'm talking about this scheme. And if you start making people pay with passing, guess what? They don't have to load up to stop Zeke. Guess what? They're scared of Dak. They're scared of you beating him in the pass game. But this scheme and play calling is so freaking conservative. All teams have to do, if you want to beat the Cowboys, is load the box. And if you stop Zeke, you win.
If you could add one thing, and I'm talking about personnel, I'm not talking about coaching. If you could add one thing to this offense that is a guy that's capable of being good to pretty damn good, all right? I'm not saying, hey, you're going to drop Kelsey in on. I'm not talking about that. I'm trying to be realistic
Can
here.
I have Travis back?
If you could, okay, that's a fine answer. I'm actually over here operating that Travis will be back, but maybe that's presumptuous, right?
I think it's very. I'll say this: Travis Frederick will be back, and he will be 100%. If you want to go back to Madden, where he's a 96 rating and he's tied for being the best player on your team, that Travis Frederick is coming back.
I have one of the most best offense in Madden history.
So I'm going to take that out of the mix. I'm giving you another option there, then, KT. What is the one thing that you add to this team that will change the dynamic of it significantly?
I would have said going into that game, I would have said tight end. I mean, they insist on forcing tight ends on the field. Go get a dynamic tight end. Okay. But now, after seeing that one game, I'm thinking defensive tackle. They got steamrolled.
Okay, that's fair. What if I also told you along those same lines? What if I told you Cole ain't coming back? I mean, we all think it's probably unlikely, right?
Yeah, I think he's gone.
So then,
you should invest in a slot wide receiver,
right?
Which they're pretty easy to find. There's a lot of them in the draft.
What's more important for this team, a slot receiver or a tight end?
A slot receiver, because I'll take my chances with Jarwin Swaim and Noah Brown developing.
I will disagree with KT, although I respect the hell out of his football opinion, and I would say a dynamic tight end, because even when you had one of the best slot receivers in the league, you didn't get him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want?
What do you want, Shippy?
I would probably go with a slot wide receiver as well, just because I think Jeff Swaim, before he got injured and he messed his wrist up, I thought he showed a lot of good things out on the field. So I'd also go with the slot wide receiver.
Can I say best wide receiver available? Because I can play Cooper in the slot all day.
Sure, but don't you hate kind of taking Cooper out of the outside?
Is Hearns ever going to play again?
No.
He's done.
I heard Kavanaugh say this, and I couldn't agree more. It sucks to say this because of the gruesomeness of this injury. Hearns wasn't coming back before the injury. They weren't about to pay him $6 million.
Do they get out of that money?
I don't think it's guaranteed.
They're going to have to eat some of it.
Okay,
some of it, but not all of it, right?
But the question is, then why the hell would you let Cole Beasley go? You cannot afford to let Cole Beasley go. You don't have a tight end. He is your security blanket. You don't use him worth a damn.
Let me ask you
this. But you desperately need him.
Let me ask you this. At his age, can Cole hold up?
I don't know.
I mean, I wonder if Cole's just, because of his size and his age, is just a little too beat up.
No, I hear you, but I don't know. Like, they've tried to draft a guy to come do that. Switzer couldn't do it.
Right.
You know, they've tried to find. I mean, you're asking someone to come in who can run razor sharp routes, turn on a dime, and burn people in one-on-one coverage whenever they want, and you're still not even going to use him when he's open.
I just don't think they're in the business of operating with 30-year-olds.
You're right.
Last Friday, when Steven was on, it was me and Broderson's show, and Steven talked about Earl Thomas. He goes, well, we weren't going to give up a one for Earl Thomas because of his age. Like, yeah, man said his age. Like,
Hey, by the way,
I still think they're doing business that way.
I was thinking about this too, and that's a great point, KT, but I still would go ahead and do it because of how important it is. You know, when you think about this defense, how many playmakers are there? You know, I think Vander Esch has been Jalen sometimes.
Their secondary doesn't get turnovers. Byron and Cheeto are not turnover guys.
They're not turnover guys, which I found myself going back to Earl Thomas.
Okay.
I found myself going, man, I know the age.
And the injury history.
Who are the guys who are playmakers? Who are the guys that are going to go make plays?
Tank and Vander Esch.
So there you go, man.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
That's not enough.